Howdy folks, I'm good-hearted Ivory Gull, gullibly giving away gorgeous gemstones.
I'm Amber.
And here are more gorgeous gemstones for us to give away to everyone in the crowd. Look under your seat right now. You get a ruby, and you get a sapphire, and you get a ruby, and you get a diamond.
Are these ones you're making it in your microwave?
No, folks, there are no gemstones under your seats. I'm sorry, I lied. I am not Oprah. Let's get started. I'm a good-hearted Ivory Gull, though. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Breaking My Wife's Routine? I'm not great at writing these things down. I ramble and I misspell, so just keep that in mind. I'm a 30-year-old male, and I've been with my wife, a 30-year-old female, for 13 years, married for 7. We have a 5-year-old with nonverbal autism. We have 2 dogs, Great Danes. One is 2, and the other is a pup. Ever since I've known my wife, she has had the same routine, adjusted for our son. She wakes up at 4 o'clock, goes for a run with the dogs, and is back by 5:10. She never is a minute later, showers for 10 minutes, and gets ready. She always is ready by 6:10. Then she gets her son up. They have breakfast together. She has had the same breakfast for 13 years, hard-boiled egg, orange, glass of milk, and yogurt, the same brand flavored yogurt, strawberry. She even has the same lunch for 13 years. Her routine is very important to her. She scheduled an hour a day, 5 to 6, to be with our son. Then 8 to 10 is time for us. We have date nights Friday and family day Saturday. But last week, I felt like being spontaneous. So I woke up early, I fed the dogs, and I wanted to join her on her jog. I never wake up at 4 a.m. It's usually at 8 a.m. She got upset, and I didn't join her. Neither did the dogs, since apparently you can't run with dogs after you feed them. So it threw off her whole routine. She's still upset, she's not complaining, but she specifically is now saying, I would like to do this alone. I told her that I'm upset as I thought that it was thoughtful. Now we're both upset. You may ask, what do I do around the house? DIY, garden work, plumbing, grocery shopping. Does she do most of the childcare? Yes, because it's her routine, which is important and our son prefers her. You may be like, just do more, it's not that easy. This is so minor, but I figured that I would post. It's our first argument in years, and I'm not used to it. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
Yeah, I think OP's probably the jerk here, for the way he's making this all about him, for one, and also for not recognizing his part in the household labor. He's like, well, it's her routine, but she had to establish this routine at some point. She didn't just always have this kid.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a few different things going on here. One, it sounds like the wife may also be neurodivergent. Having a set routine is very common for neurodivergent people, and her rigid need for routine. Having a rigid routine is very common for neurodivergent people. And I think there's a disconnect there. He knows this routine is important to her, but he thought he was just going to swoop in and change things and she was going to love it. And that's not how it works when your routine gets interrupted, if you're someone who relies on that.
So, regardless of whether she is neurodivergent or not, I don't think that's an important factor here. What I think is an important factor is the fact that she has a routine that she's set and she is not a minute late in it, right? Mm-hmm. Which should indicate that this is something that's very important to her. He knows that she does this routine, this very, very strict routine every single day. And he should be aware that having the routine messed up might put her behind in other parts of the day, right? So if she's like a high-powered person who, is, higher management or even middle management, she might not have a lot of time that's unscheduled throughout her day, and it might just be part of the personality that she has, right? So him putting her behind might really kind of mess up her whole day and might kind of put her into a bad mood.
Yeah, well, and I only bring up the neurodivergent thing because, also, the way the neurodivergent brain works, and of course, every neurodivergent person is different. Sometimes, if your routine gets messed up, that causes a lot of emotional and psychological stress, which then messes you up for the whole day.
So, I guess my only point here is that I think that he isn't being considerate towards her needs in general, right? And I understand him maybe wanting to be a little spontaneous, but I think you can't just spring that onto somebody who is, has a very rigid, structured schedule like that.
Mm-hmm.
He would need to have told her ahead of time that he would like to join her, right?
Yeah, well,
And get her consent and permission, right?
exactly. It would have been one thing if he had asked to join her, but then he jumped in and didn't even know what needed to be done. Like the reason why the dogs, I guess, like they could actually die if they run after having eaten the particular breed they have, and so he just kind of swooped in and didn't even know how to do everything properly. Just decided to mix things up, and it, again, could have, if he had just run with the dogs, it could have led to bad things too.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, I think again, like he needs to probably do more around the house. I know that he says that's not that easy, but I mean, has he sat down and talked with his wife about what he can do to help out more, right? Because there's a lot more to housing, to the how a house operates than doing DIY garden work, plumbing, and grocery shopping, right?
right, like how much plumbing work do you need on an average day? How
Yeah,
much DIY?
not really any, right? The garden is probably the most intensive thing out of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like grocery shopping is an hour affair.
And then he's like, "Oh, you might tell me to do more, but it's not that easy." And it's like, in what respect is it not that easy? Like
Mm-hmm.
again, it just doesn't even seem like he has that much regard for his wife's routines, And like in one breath, he's like, "They're so important, so I couldn't interrupt them to do childcare."
Yeah.
But I also just ran in and interrupted them.
Yeah.
It seems like OP is like being choosy here when it's when her routine matters and when it doesn't.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. Mildly inconvenienced.
I don't know that I agree with the wheel here.
I mean, OP might have been mildly inconvenienced.
Yeah, OP might have been mildly inconvenienced.
And Trixie 239 says, you're the jerk gently, but still the jerk. No, you can't run dogs up to an hour after eating, especially not deep-chested breeds like Danes. They'll get bloat. Bloat can be fatal. At the very least, it's expensive surgery to staple the stomach. But anyways, she has a routine that encompasses her son because routines can be very important when it comes to autism. So immediately her scheduling herself around him is not a massive deal. She's being a good mother. If you woke up early and felt spontaneous, why not wait until she's awake and then ask if you can join her for a run? Why did you just assume? You're years into this routine and suddenly you want to shake it up. Maybe routines are very important to her. Maybe she enjoys the predictability of her day-to-day life. It wouldn't have been hard just to ask. Though I wonder who was staying behind with your son if you're both going for a run in the morning.
Well, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about. Was like, what was his plan for the kid? Just leave them home alone?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they had like live-in care or something like that, like a nanny or something. But it looks like a lot of the comments are wondering who was taking care of the child. And Harvey Snake says, you're the jerk. You seem to be missing the point badly. She's entitled to me time, and clearly jogging is her special me time. She was annoyed that you intruded without asking, and very clearly has said, this is just for me. Instead of being understanding, you have taken it personally as some kind of insult to you that she won't bend on letting you join her. As for your chore list, I'm not impressed at all. Grocery shopping is just a few hours, one day per week. How much DIY and plumbing work really needs to be done in your house? Those aren't daily contributions, but weekly. And garden work is again not really a daily contribution, and it's seasonal, so if it's winter where you live, you aren't doing any. You need to contribute more to your household. You need to contribute to childcare, cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Even if she were a stay-at-home mom and you the sole breadwinner, you need to do more. Speaking of leaving your child home alone, our next letter is titled, My husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone and refuses to explain why. My husband is 43 and I'm 31. We've been married for 7 years and have a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. My husband left our children alone and he refuses to admit it or even tell me where he was. I'm furious, enraged, and my husband keeps telling me that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. This just happened this weekend. I'm on the board of directors for a local nonprofit organization. I had to attend an event for that organization this past Saturday, and I was gone for most of the day. My husband was supposed to be home with our kids. I texted him a few times and he responded. When I called around midday, he didn't respond, but that's not unusual. Shortly after that, I get a call from my mom, and she says that my son just called her, and when she asked him what he and his sister were doing, he said that they were both watching TV. When she asked where their dad was, he said that his dad wasn't there. My mom asked him several other questions, and from my son's responses, she believed that he was telling the truth and that my husband wasn't there, and that there was no adult there at all. She said that he doesn't seem scared to be alone or worried about where his dad was at. He just called her to chat. His tablet is designed for children with pre-programmed contacts that he can call. It's only a few people, just a few family members. I left the event immediately and I began texting and calling my husband repeatedly. He didn't respond to my first several attempts. It took about 10 minutes. I was halfway home at that point to respond. I was so confused, worried, and really mad, and I asked him where he was. He said that he was at home. I told him that our son just told his grandmother that he was home alone with his baby sister watching TV about 15 minutes ago. My husband denied it and told him that I was too upset to talk and drive. When I got home, I checked on the kids right away, and they were both fine. I asked my husband again where he was. He said that he was home the entire time. He doesn't know what our son was talking about, but he must have just been confused since he had gone to the basement to do some laundry. I ran down to the basement. It was still the same load of laundry that I had thrown in the dryer the night before. He didn't do any laundry while I was gone. I asked my husband why my son would be confused about whether his dad was home or not. Where in our home would he have gone, and for how long for our son to think that dad wasn't there? That doesn't make sense with a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. You wouldn't leave them unattended for that long. Why was he nowhere to be found when my mom asked my son to go check certain areas of the house? I begged my husband just to admit it, to stop treating me like an idiot, and just to stop accusing our son of lying, just to tell the truth. Because being lied to straight to my face is incredibly maddening. He insists that he was home, but he can't come up with any believable story of where he was at or what he was doing during that time. The way he answers me when I ask him about this and demand the truthful answers is so dismissive. When I tell him, "You left your child alone," he says quickly, "No, I didn't, so anyways." He says that I'm overreacting and letting our son's imagination drive me crazy. I am convinced that he was gone. We don't have a Ring camera, but at least one of our neighbors does. I'm so upset about this that I'm tempted to ask our neighbor for her Ring footage. I had to go out to my car and scream and cry because I got so upset. Of course, I didn't want my kids to see my reaction. I can't put into words how upset I am about the fact that I know he must have really left them alone, but I have no proof, and I feel like I'm being treated like I'm just being paranoid by him. And folks, we have an update to this one, so you don't have to wait long to find out the saga of this. Update: my husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone and refuses to explain why. Last weekend, my husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone while I was gone and then refuses to admit or provide plausible explanation. Since then, we had many arguments about it. I've been living in a constant state of anger and frustration. I didn't want to fight about it anymore, but I couldn't help it, and I kept bringing it up again and again. I couldn't lay low and pretend to get over it while I waited for him to do it again and catch him in whatever he was doing. I also knew that demanding that he tell me the truth wasn't going to get me to get any answers. Since he had been refusing to talk and deflecting for days, all it was doing was making me more enraged and feel like I was about to have a brain aneurysm. I told him to hand me his cell phone so I could check his location at the time. He refused. He said that he wouldn't do it and that it was a violation of his privacy. He wouldn't be treated this way and refused to give in to my delusions. You think I enjoy being in a situation where I have to beg my husband to show me his phone so I can see where he was at? I hate it. I don't want to live this way. I told him it's simple. If he really was home the entire time, just to prove it. Why wouldn't he want to clear this whole thing up? I got so mad that he wouldn't turn over his phone that I told him that I was going to go to the neighbor to get their doorbell footage. At first he was like, "Fine, go do it." He didn't really think that I would. He knows that I don't like to air drama to others, so he probably figured that I would just swallow all of this nonsense that he's been giving me. Luckily, I was totally being driven by anger at this point, so nothing was going to stop me from going to the neighbors. When I started to actually go out the door, he tried to stop me and follow me out the door. I felt pure anger rushing through my veins, nothing else. The neighbor, who I've probably said less than 10 words to in the entire time that we've lived here, told me that he would send me the footage. I went home, I told my husband that our neighbor didn't have the footage from that day anymore, and told him that I just needed to go to the store to cool off. So I put the kids in the car and I went and parked somewhere while I waited for the neighbor to send me the footage. I have the neighbor's number now too, and he told me that if I needed any more footage, he would be happy to give it to me. The video shows a blue car that I don't recognize show up and park in our driveway. A blonde woman gets out of the car and goes towards my house. She walks on the outside of our garage towards the gate leading to our backyard. The gate is too far back and out of the way to be seen on the doorbell footage. She and her car were there for 23 minutes. Imagine that. The car leaves right around the time that my husband called me to say that he was home and had been the entire time, as I was rushing home in a panic and calling him on repeat. There are one of two possibilities as to where they went. She either came in through the side door of the house, which does provide direct access to our basement, or, and this is what I think is more likely, that they were in the backmost part of our yard, which is a gated pool area. Immediately behind our house is a grass lawn. Then you step down a few steps and we have a patio, and then there's a fully gated area where the pool is at. It's not like you would think of with a picture of a gated pool. It's a full 6-foot wood fence all the way around, plus even a taller landscaping for added privacy. You can't see into the area unless you're inside. I think it's more likely that they were back there because my son said that Dad's keys were gone, and we keep the gate locked with a key. The pool is closed for the winter, but there is one small building back there, sort of like a shed we converted into a changing area. And there is a covered patio with furniture. I am convinced that that's where they were at. So technically he was home, but in an area totally removed from the house where he couldn't see or hear the kids if something happened. I asked him how he could explain this, what they were doing. Obviously, I didn't need him to tell me what they were doing, but for some reason, I still had hope that he would finally be honest. He wasn't contrite. He showed no remorse. He was just like, yeah, she was here, but I obviously never left. Who is she? How long has this been going on? And if he's going to be such a disgusting, despicable excuse of a man, then why couldn't he have at least found any other time and any other lie or excuse other than when he was home alone with our kids? I told him that I know this has happened before, and I demanded to know how many times that he's done this when he's been home alone with the kids. He swears that this was the only time, but he still doesn't have the guts to confess what they were doing. I don't believe him that this was the only time, for your information. I still have so many questions, and I still feel like my heart is beating 200 times a minute. My blood pressure is through the roof. I've cried a lot. I've sobbed. I've begged someone for help. I've yelled. I've screamed. I've ordered a bunch of books about divorce and custody. And you know what? The next day, after multiple explosive fights, him putting his hands on me and me seeing the evidence, he acted like everything was totally normal, like none of the stuff ever happened. I woke up still seething, exhausted, broken, and he's acting like everything is totally normal. He said that he was ordering breakfast to be delivered from our favorite breakfast place. He asked if I wanted to go to the store together later and try this new recipe for chili tonight. What? Why in the world would I want to do any of these things with you now? Absolutely no acknowledgement of anything that he's done or what's transpired between us in the past few days. He's deserved an Oscar for how well he was able to act like nothing happened, completely comfortable and not fazed. I know that it's a waste of my energy, but I just desperately want him to admit the full truth of what he did that day and any other day with this woman. I want to hear it from him. It won't change whatever he's done, but he could at least have the respect and decency to be honest that he's now been caught. That's a ridiculous thought though, right? How foolish of me to expect this man to show decency and honesty now. If he was a decent and honest man, then he wouldn't have had a strange woman over to our house and been out of sight from our kids for 23 minutes. His continued denial and refusal to admit anything other than the bare minimum, his attitude like I'm somehow being controlling and infringing on his rights by asking for information, that's almost more hurtful than him cheating on me. Alright folks, what do you think of this one?
I feel so bad for OP. I hope those divorce books are helpful. I do not think this is a man you should stay in a relationship with, and I do not think this is a man you should trust. Clearly, he is content with just manipulating and gaslighting OP. Like, oh, no, I was home. None of this happened. And then, like, it's, slowly by slowly, like OP finds the evidence, and then oh yeah, well she was here, but I didn't leave, and
Mm-mm.
all this stuff. Like he's not a responsible parent. He left the children unattended in a place where he couldn't hear if they needed him, and one of those children is very young. I mean, they're both young, but especially like a 9 month old
Mm-hmm.
is very, very young to be home alone.
Mm-hmm.
And he is not a good partner. The way he is acting, like you are being ridiculous and invading his privacy. Like he lost the right to privacy when you decided to leave your children home alone.
Yeah. Well, also another big question is like, why even go out to this area back there? Is it just so that if OP comes home early or something like that, that
It
they
might
don't
be
get
so the
caught?
kids don't see it because the 5-year-old might tell OP.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. But yeah, I think that this is just a bad situation all in all.
Mm-hmm.
He's been caught in the act. OP knows that he's been cheating. I just wish OP had been able to get into his phone
Mm-hmm.
to get it unlocked and stuff like that. I still think that OP would have been wise to try to collect more evidence before confronting them on this.
Yeah, but she might still be able to, like, if she knows specific dates when he was home with the kids, she might be able to give those to the neighbor to check his footage.
Yeah,
So if they can get more footage or something like that, that might help.
yeah. So, but I mean, infidelity is infidelity,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, I think like whether he admits it or not, like what business
Mm-hmm.
does this woman have coming home, and why did she rush away right before OP arrived home,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, like, there's no other like of course this was cheating. I think that anyone examining the evidence here would agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that OP is perfectly justified in trying to end this relationship. This man is not responsible. He's willing to leave your kids alone and put them into danger. I think also putting that, having that evidence presented during a custody battle is going to give OP favorable results. Like this guy is just not a good father, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
What did the ghost say to their Valentine?
Oh, I know exactly what the ghost said to their Valentine. They said, "Boo! I'm a ghost. I just scared you." And then the other ghost was like, "It doesn't work that way because I'm also a ghost." But then the other ghost was walking away from the ghost that they just scared. And when a third ghost came around the corner and they bumped into each other like ghosts do, and the one ghost was very startled by this and said, "This is how I'll scare them in the future."
You'll always be my boo. And today is Valentine's Day. Happy
Oh!
Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's Day, folks. Make sure to go find someone that you love and give them a hug. That doesn't have to be romantic. And I have Earl Grey. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Fantastic Friday, folks. I hope your Friday is going fantastically. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on being a non bad or mediocre husband.
Well, at a minimum, you could watch the children when you say you're going to and not run off with your affair partner. You probably shouldn't have an affair partner in the first place if you're trying to be a good husband.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.